The ACC meetings are going on right now. I assume somewhere in North Carolina, Charlotte, probably. So Florida State, of course, is waging its court battle. Clemson is waging its court battle. They've had a few stalemates and some things that have been delayed that have pushed the boulder down the lane. North Carolina's come out this week and been very adamant and vocal about its frustration concerning revenue. Do you have, concerning the Miami position, any advice for how vocal Miami should be? Would you want them to be more vocal, lay back? Do you think that there's a particular approach that they should or should not be taking in all this?
I think that we're taking the approach that there was to take. Dan Radakovich, the Miami athletic director, was the first one to speak out at an athletic director and president's meeting a couple of years ago about this issue. And I mean, that's what smart leaders do. You put an issue out there and you let your underlings, the peons of the world, handle your light work. So we raised it in a thing, and then, Florida State says, hey, wait, Miami's right about this. We're not making the money we should be making. Da, 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 da. And then Clemson says, well, we're like Florida State, and that obviously, we should say that, and like we're like Miami in the upper echelon, and we're not making the money we should make, and they just go and do all the work, and you leverage relationships, clearly back channeling, and if you want to have the perception, not take the hit in public relations of like waging the battle yourself, you raise the issue, step back, see what happens. Clemson and Florida State are clearly, they got ants in their pants and bees up their butt, and they want to, do that and be loud about it and everything, and you keep moving. I think that this is very typical, and we've seen Miami take this same kind of a thing in their own internal operations relative to NIL. Because if you remember first, what was the one name in the world of NIL that we knew at the very beginning of this? John Ruiz, right? He wanted to be out there. He was doing interviews here and article features there and da-da-da. I'm John Ruiz from da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. While the real money and power was just over here doing the thing, shuttling it around. Now it's coming to Kane's Connection. His life wallet, John Ruiz's life wallet company continues to have sinking valuations and everything. And hey, whatever. I'm not pocket watching this guy. What I'm saying is he wanted the fame of being up front, and the rest of Miami, right? The power brokers from the board of trustees to plenty of other money guys, and trust and believe there are plenty of money guys associated with the University of Miami. I'm not one of them. Like, hey, whatever. But people know who some of them are, God willing. But they're like, cool. He can go over there. He can be loud and blustery, and we're going to be over here and do this. And I think that Dan Radakovich and Julio Frank, the athletic director and university president, are taking the same approach and saying, yeah, let them take the John Ruiz role, that being Florida State and Clemson. Y'all do it. Be loud, be in front of people. If you want the fame of having the interviews, of being the litigious ones, getting the cameras at the courthouse and everything, y'all can have it, right? And what we're going to do, continue to build relationships, have conversations, work behind the scenes, and be ready for what's coming next. Because we can, insofar as like, Florida State and Clemson are leading the charge with, the lawsuits, whatever the fallout is from that, we're riding that wave. We're, in the connection to things, they're Daryl Johnston and we're Emmitt Smith. You get through that hole behind Larry Allen, you kick out that linebacker, and then we're going to go and run to daylight. So you lead that way, and then we're going to continue and find success based upon what your part of this scenario was. So I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm perfectly fine with having others be out there and be the names. Now, if we wanted to be out there and say, okay, cool, the University of Miami is going forward with whatever, and yada, yada, I would be fine with that as well, because we, even without being very good recently, are still the bad boys of college football. So people love to hate on us. So, hey, if they hate, then let them hate and watch the money pile up. I'm fine with being the bad guy. Hashtag let's be jerks, all that kind of stuff. We're taking just a little bit more of a background approach to it, but I'm perfectly fine. Especially, well, at this point, I'm perfectly fine. But my continuing to be okay with it is fully contingent on landing a spot in the SEC or Big Ten whenever that shakes out. So I'm good for now. I'm good for tomorrow. I'm good for next week. But when it comes time that, teams start leaving the ACC, because God knows I hate it here. I hate it here. We've needed to go for a long time. I will not be okay if for some, infinitesimally small percent chance happens that Miami does not find a seat at the big boy table in the next part of reshuffling, which would be us, Clemson, Florida State, and maybe North Carolina leaving for, one of the other, one of the two money conferences. That is fully a requirement for my continued good feelings in this scenario. But the way that it is transpiring to this point meets my estimation. But, it also needs to conclude in the way that I desire as well.
While Florida State, Miami, and Clemson are the power brokers in the conference from a football standpoint, what I find interesting, of course, it's founded as a basketball conference, known as a basketball first conference, and North Carolina is North Carolina, and they're one of the few programs in the nation that can kind of push like a football program this realignment and have a consideration because of their basketball prowess. And also, if the ACC loses North Carolina, even though from a monetary standpoint, some of the other schools might be more important from a football standpoint, almost symbolically, wow, that is a gut punch to the ACC. That if you could select one school that is the ACC, it's the University of North Carolina. And for them to lose them.
Yeah, I mean, that's an existential issue for the ACC. If you have charter members like Carolina leaving, but hey, everybody has to do what they have to do. I think that Miami is in a good spot to find a shelter elsewhere, but we will need to see, especially because being a private school, we can't even really Freedom of Information Act anything or whatever. So it's really getting a firm read is difficult if you're not like connected with the day-to-day happenings. But yeah, I would say, and because of that, I think that we are able to, move, real G's move in silence like lasagna. I really think that we're able to do that more effectively being a private school than the public schools, which is why I think when Dan Radakovich said that at the meeting a couple of years ago, he was really like, giving the baton and saying, hey, because y'all have FOIA or FOIA on your side, so like people can request things, you can request things more. So like your whole transaction string is going to be more public than ours would. So making everything public would then put more pressure on the ACC. So again, with these public institutions doing these things, all the schools, including the private schools like Miami, are benefiting from it because it is still in the public light, as opposed to like, oh, well, this is, a legal situation between two private entities. So there's nothing to be gleaned. There's nothing to be said. This is all private. So I think, yeah, having public universities, do the dirty work of the legal process, I think does have a benefit even for Miami as not initially or primarily connected to it at this time.
Well, the four schools we're talking about, Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and now North Carolina, are gaining all the attention, and rightfully so. They're the power brokers in the conference. I find that less interesting because I know that they're leaving. I'm 90 some percent sure that the ACC is not going to withstand this and they're leaving. Now, when that's going to happen, where that's going to be for each individual school, and how much that financial transaction is going to be in that settlement when all the dust clears, I don't know. Now, on the back end of it, looking at the very least of the ACC schools, if the ACC falls apart, I have little hope that Wake, Boston College, those schools are going to find a landing spot in power conference athletics. I think that they are going to be the next Tulane, Memphis, fill in the blank. They're going to be the best of the American conference, and they're going to just be relegated to group of five status. What interests me is Louisville, NC State, those schools. And they have to be trying to determine, do we really push for a stabilized ACC that even if those four top schools leave, that we can stabilize it with 12 or 13 schools? And sure, we've lost a lot of money, but we can hopefully stay with maybe one guaranteed spot in the playoff, and who knows, just can we stabilize this and stay with a national TV contract and all of that? Or, oh, can we attach ourselves, if we're NC State, to North Carolina and get plucked up by the Big Ten or somebody?
Hmm.
Or if we're Duke, can we attach ourselves to North Carolina? Or if we're whoever, can we attach ourselves, Virginia Tech, to whomever? Can Virginia Tech and Virginia become a package? And obviously, those schools would, just like everybody else, rather be in the SEC or the Big Ten. So,
Yeah.
which way they're figuring out, are we going to have to play this? And but if they figure out the Big Ten and the SEC really don't want us. Although the Big 12, who knows? They seem to have a strategy that, we take everyone. We'll take. We just want to be as
Strength.
big in quantity as possible to try to
Exactly.
stay relevant.
Strength in numbers can keep you going. Oh, I am so very sorry. Please go on over State of the U and fan with us from now and forever. I believe one of those three events from the Secret Day Job is popping back up. So I do apologize, everybody, but I have work to do. So it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. I will catch you guys next week. Thanks. See ya.
Thank you, Cam. Appreciate it. Cam Underwood, State of the U, of course. Be it State of the U. Pressing matters there at work for Cam. We do have some super chats coming in from Falconer TRX, and we also have a show at 8 o'clock Eastern time that you may be interested in. It's going to be simulcast both on the Michigan and Texas channels. They're going to have a debate over who had the best NFL draft in 2024. Texas, Michigan. Of course, Michigan had 13 selections, Texas 11, but it's deeper than that. And also, it's much deeper than just, why would we talk about this 2 weeks after the draft? The two schools are playing this year, and the two are on that elite level, and it's a dynamic conversation. Again, Michigan, Texas, both channels coming up at 8 Eastern time. Falconer TRX says, jerks in public, secret agents in private. Falconer TRX, I tell you, you have a way with a phrase. You do, in fact. Mohammed comes back with this. We better get good at playing in cold weather. and that is true as well. There was a game at Boston College on the final game of the season. Miami did rather well, but I don't remember that the weather was that porous. That final game against Boston College, what did they win? Like 45-10? But yeah, there was the game at Pitt in 2017, the first loss of the season. There have been bowl games even played in Florida against the likes of Wisconsin about 12 or 13 years ago, in which Miami clearly did not want to be there. And so, yes, if Brett Favre can do it, Jerry Rice can do it. A lot of Southern boys were able to elevate their game to the next level going to the pros. It's funny how many great, all-time great NFL players in cold weather cities were guys from the South. Jim Kelly did not want to go to Buffalo. He opted for the Houston Gamblers. The great Miami quarterback wanted to stay in the South. Even though he was from Pennsylvania, he loved it in Miami, wanted to stay in the South, bypassed the NFL, told Buffalo, don't want to play for you. What happened? He had to play for Buffalo. He bit his lip and he forced himself to go, and he was forced to go. And then he loved it and he thrived. Tom Brady's a California boy. He played in blizzards in New England. It can be done. We've seen it time and time again. Tremendous players from the South. Joe Namath, Bart Starr, again, Brett Favre, and others excel in the cold. So, Muhammad, great point.